When we think of homeless people, we think of them as others. Them, not us. It could never happen to us, could it? Or to our children. So why did it happen to this 7-year-old who loved gymnastics? Was your average child a little bit silly, a little bit goofy, a little bit insecure? She had dreams of one day being a police officer. But 6 months after this picture was taken, she was living on the streets of London.
Have revealed that there are 320,000 homeless people in the UK.
A mental health charity has recently published a report claiming that 4 in 5 homeless people suffer from a mental health problem.
The number of homeless young people in England could reach a 5-year high by Christmas, according to homelessness charity
An estimated 8.4 million people in England are living in unaffordable, insecure or unsuitable homes.
Leanne is not unique. Thousands of kids run away from home every year. What does it take to stop this from happening, and what, if anything, can be done to stop girls like this from ending up on the streets in the first place?
I was 14 when I first started running away. It all started soon after I got in with a gang of older kids that drove around in a blue transit van, taking drugs and going to raves. I'd bunk off school and go with them, stealing cars and taking part in smash and grabs. It felt exciting. My new friends made me feel grown up. They gave me jewellery, nice things. Then I started to get arrested with them, always given a fake name and age, and soon I stopped going into school completely.
I first came out when I was 14 and started off under the bridge. And then on and off 21, 22 years now. I feel like my mum's too busy drinking all day long, so I just do what I want. I was older, so I go out working, washing people's cars at the age of 10, stay at traffic lights with squeegees. Because when she could do shopping for herself, I had to go do shopping for my sisters, everything was based on my sisters. I left school when I was 11. And then before I left school, I was dropping my sister off and coming up here. At age 10, 11 years old, going to Falcon Square for the vision. Never expecting us to live up here. It was scary at first because it's a big place. Kids go around with all the old people around there, but getting to know the white people, you know, got by somehow. I thought you got to live against the white group. Fun at times. Weekend, it was insane chaos. Happy families going around. And that's what I hate seeing them, watching all the families going past them and just constantly moaning about the thing in their lives. They've got everything they want and they're so miserable. I live on the street with fuckboys. I can smile every day. So it makes them all the same out here. They look at one of us and think, oh, say, yeah, we drinkers, we're drugs. And I tell them, I live different to people out here. People always come to me, you can be drinking, they think you've got a homeless. I said, I hate alcohol. In 10 years, I probably have gone through. I hate it. When you live out here so long, you still drink dust people. Stop thinking they're better than us and you guys are all the same people. And they could be out there easy enough. I've seen it happen. They think what happened, I've seen bank managers, everything, these houses, wives, and sat in the car hood. And realised that it's easily done.
We're not scumbags, we're just not. Like, we was like them once, and just someone's child or someone's sister, someone's brother. We're still human beings, we're not invisible. I've been at it for 5 years. I left domestic violence. I just ran from it, basically.
I have been in London now for the last nearly 8 weeks. I lost my own home, I lost my husband, I lost my 3 children. That's how I became homeless on the streets. That was 9 years ago. Since I've been in London for 8 weeks, I've been targeted twice by 2 males. I've been attacked in my doorway. I was headbutted by the one, and I've been spat on by another. I find this so depressing.
From 15, I was in and out of care. And eventually, no one wanted me. If someone was like me when I was younger, like 14, 15, I think it'd be different. Social services, like, at that time as well, they ruined my life. But I want to go back to college, I want to be a counsellor, just to give back and that, just... I want to do something with my life, rather than just sit here doing the same old thing every day. Like, the amount of times I should be dead and I'm still here, I'm here for something. So that's the way I see it.
I had a good upbringing, good life in Jamaica. I think I was privileged because I had family who worked in high places. You know, I had an uncle who was a poet. He was an influential person. He performed at festivals in Jamaica on the big stage. And because of him, you know, I went so many places, even on ships. You know, so it's quite something to remember. I came to England because I got married. It was lovely. I thought I had the woman of my dreams, and but it was. I wanted it to work, but it wasn't to be. You know, to break it down, it was the marriage that started my homelessness. My homeless journey started from the breakdown of the relationship. Most of the people out here who are homeless, I know them because where they go, like the charities that support them, I used to go there as well. You could be homeless and no one know because you can go around clean, you can go around fed, and you can go around looking. If there was someone out here looking scruffy and dirty, it's because they wanted to. Because there are centers where you could have a bath, you could have food, you could have clothes, but today, all of that has changed. It has gotten worse because these places seems like they are shut down for good. That service isn't there anymore.
I had a bit of a dramatic, chaotic childhood. My mother had mental health issues and my father was an alcoholic, so eventually I went to live with my dad because he got off the drink, but then after about 3 years he started drinking again and then didn't stop drinking until he was dead. So time I was 17, I tried heroin, but I didn't really have a problem with it until I was about 21, and then it just sort of took over my whole life. My dad died in 2001, and that's the reason that heroin really became a problem for me round about the same time. But my brother died of an overdose in 2003, and then my other brother died of an overdose in 2008, and then my sister drunk herself to death a couple of years ago. So there was 6 siblings in my family, and now there's only 3 of us. and it's all due to mental health and addiction. In August 2012, I started college, done maths, physics and chemistry, got 3 A's, and then went to Stirling University for a year, done applied biomedical sciences, physics and chemistry. And by the end of the first year, my head was just wrecked. But I just with no support, I couldn't cope, so I didn't deal with the root problems of why I had been, that had caused my mental illness or caused me to self-medicate or anything like that, you know what I mean?
Where do I start? I don't know where. My life had been so complicated, didn't think anyone cared. But here I go with so much to say. By the time of 35, I was feeling 3 times my age. Well, first of all is what I see, because my dad hit my mum when I was only 3. Then after that, nothing did much change, only more pain inflicted on my brother and me. I had seen more than most and I was only 5. That pain I felt wasn't just inside. My mum black and blue, me I took some pain. My brother being disabled, I would not let him hold the shame. I tried so hard to be the man of the house, but my so-called dad beat me down to a mouse. That's just the first part of a life that I don't experience more than twice. My name is Earl John Charlton. I was born in South Shields and made on the streets. And for 18 years, I was homeless. Hi, good afternoon there, Jan. My name's Earl Charlton. I'm a support worker for North East Homeless. I'm just ringing up regarding a couple of people that I'm supporting and you're dealing with called Kelly
I'm a full-time support worker. People from the street, I go and do outreach and meet them, do assessments on them, or more than likely we ask them to come to the hub, where then we can make the relevant phone calls to the local councils, applications for universal credit on the laptops, and feed and clothe and give them a shower if they need it. Well, they can have a shower, you know. But yeah, that's what I do at the minute with North East Homeless.
Having to use the outreach for many years, now I'm doing the outreach, you know, I know it's expected, you know, so I put my best forward. But sometimes I don't do it every week, you know, because working 5 days a week can take its toll. There you go there, guys. 2 cappuccinos. No worries. How are the muffins anyway? Champ. Yeah, so then going from doing outreach and that, but my main thing is when I get into work, coming to my second home sort of thing, you know, it's, it could be anything from serving teas, coffees, to doing the breakfast lunches, to cleaning up, and just watching out and having a conversation with people and giving them the idea of who I am, like what North East Homeless have done in itself, you know, from street to feet is their logo. Stand in front is from street to feet. And now, like, look at me, you know what I mean? I'd be lucky if I could make an instant coffee before I come to North East Homeless, and now I'm making lattes and cappuccinos. And well, they're training me. They do get us training and that. But I try to do what I can when I can. Sometimes I sort of have a meltdown. A big percentage of the people that come in here have got the history the same as mine. There's some members of staff would sit down with them and you can see that they're holding back and they'll go, Earl, can you have a little chat with this one? And I'll go over and I don't ask them their details or names. I straight away says, mate, I'm Earl Charlton, and I show them a photo of 2014. I go, that's where I was, this is what I was, where I was for many, many years. And that breaks that barrier, because a lot of us carry them barriers around, because being honest with people sometimes, it can be worse for you because they'll just judge you instantly. I'm not even bullshitting you, mate. We've had people that have been to council appointments, phoned them themselves, even had the members of public phone up and say, we've seen this guy in the doorway, and do fuck all about it. When you get an organisation behind you with a reputation, you know what I mean, they sort of up the game a little bit. And I'm just saying I can pronounce it today here, homeless. So we can start addressing that and try and get you somewhere from tonight. Here at the Fishkey Hub, what you'll find is when you approach a building, you'll see a yellow line immediately on the ground as you come through the door, and that's for when everyone crosses into the social supermarket, is to leave all your egos behind. So you're welcome, you come in, and it's a place automatically for a place of safety. In the kitchens, we do a vast range. at the, of like the menu for people to select for the public to come in, but mainly it's to cook our outreach meals, which are twice a week in Newcastle. The increase of families coming in, and we're not just talking about single parents one time, we're talking about 2 adults, 3, 4 kids coming in, which hurts as well. When you see them coming in, they don't know how to approach you, they look scared, and you can see the kids look malnourished and stuff like that. It breaks your heart. It breaks your heart to see from what it used to be as me being a single bloke to seeing the families suffering now. You know, the amount of families that are coming is disgusting.
I'm trying to work out when everything started to go wrong. Maybe it was when I was around 4, when my new stepdad moved in. Things were fine at first, and then my new baby sister arrived, and then he became abusive towards my mum and me and my brother. So we used to hide under the table when he'd beat her. She'd be screaming that she was going to kill herself if he didn't leave, and we'd lose ourselves in our imaginations under that dinner table. My brother trying to distract me, we'd play hairdressers and cut each other's hair. He eventually left.
Rough sleeping, people being left to live and die on our streets is an actual human rights abuse. I've always believed that homeless people have to be treated, first of all, as people who've fallen out of a system that has let them down, and you've got to find a way of getting them back into the system. And the only way to do that is to actually challenge the whole idea that homeless people are just victims. I should give you an introduction to who I am. I was a person who was born in the slums of post-war London, brought up a Catholic racist. And I went to all these institutions and I slept rough and I stole. Someone said to me, "How did you get into the House of Lords?" I said, "By lying, cheating, and stealing." In 1991, I started a project called The Big Issue. And every one of the homeless organizations said exactly the same thing. What do you want to give money for homeless people for? They'll only do this, or put it up their nose, or put it in their arm, or do that. My wife is telling me to wind up, so I should listen. Yeah, she's going like that. Unless, let me just end on one point. The simple fact is this, that what we need to do is we need to prevent people falling down. But once they fall down, we have to have the means of getting them up as quick as possible to prevent the next generation of big issue vendors, the next generation of people who are using drugs and falling through the net and filling up our prisons and filling up our A&Es. Thank you very much for your patience. God bless you all. The homeless organizations were appalled by me in particular, because they thought I was a kind of second-hand car dealer. And they were appalled at the fact that I was going to give homeless people the chance of making their own money. And they did every conceivable thing to help homeless people, you know, gave them condoms, places to sleep, places to wash, you know, a shoulder to cry on. But nobody ever gave them the chance of making their own money legitimately, so that if they were putting it down their throat or in their arm, at least they weren't robbing anybody for it. And my argument was, well, let's decriminalize people first. Then you can try and deal with the long-term problems, which obviously, you know, we know is much more long-term and deep. And we met so many people who were almost terminal. They'd done so much damage to themselves, and they'd been so damaged that it was unlikely that we would ever be able to turn them. but at least we could hold their hand and support them and make them feel that there was some family in this world.
So I was born and I was brought up on King George Road, where a year and a half later my brother had come along. So the first time I seen my dad hit my mum was 3 years old. And at that point, she had my brother, who's got cerebral palsy, and we never knew at the time he had that disability, in her arms. And I remember seeing him at the front door, and he must have been asking for money. My mum had a cup of tea in her hand, my brother in one arm, and he went to crack her, you know, and he hit the cup, and the cup of tea went over my mum. So that's the first memory as a young kid that I've got, and it sticks with me to this day. Unfortunately, I got into a group of elders in South Shields who said they were looking after me, but really were using me to get into chemist windows and stuff like that. And I ended up getting arrested and come out of Lord Newton prison at 16 years old on my birthday. And I went to see my mum and that again, just passing through. Went to see my nana, because my nana's a blinder. And I felt I was putting shame on the family, because I'm the oldest out of 27 grandchildren, 36 great-grandchildren, and that, you know, that being the eldest of anything, you've got a responsibility. And what I'd done, I thought I was that bad of a kid that I didn't want to put shame on my family, so I thought, no, you just better leave Shields. I ran away to hitchhike again, 1981, and ended up in Bristol. Western-super-Mare, actually, where I met Sue. I was homeless and she was homeless, but her mum lived there, so her mum put us up for a few nights, and then we found out she was pregnant. And I thought, nah, and that's the first time I ever begged in my life. I sat outside for 2 weeks and raised £250 for a deposit for a private landlord rent, and then my boy was born. And I thought, you know what, Earl, this might just be you. You've left your family, you haven't got your family, that's what I thought. Now you've got your own family, this is you can make it. And we went from the private renter to a council property where we made into a proper home, it's our forever home, and I absolutely loved it, brilliant neighbours and that. But what we didn't realise at a young age and didn't understand what postnatal depression was about. And she went from 9 stone to 16.5 stone, thought I never loved her or fancied her no more, and she thought I was better off out the pair of them. Then one morning I woke up and she was gone. She took my boy. So at that point I never knew what heroin or crack was. Smack and crack sounded the same. I could have said they were the same, but never knew or even seen what it was. And I used to smoke the weed on the bongs and that. And my next door neighbour, so-called friend, seeing me right down, I was breaking down and everything, and he said, have a bit of this on top. What is it? When it's a bit of gear. You never told me it was heroin. You never gave me no warning signs at all. So I took this bong and I started drifting off. And actually, initially, I was sick. Like, what the hell is this? I was sick. And after the sickness went, it was like what you call the gouges when you're not off. And I came around a few hours later and just jumped up immediately. And immediately next door, went next door to see my boy was back, and he still wasn't back. And I came back and went, oh, just give us another one of them. Still no warning signs. And I was doing it on the bong for a few weeks until I started getting these symptoms like the flu, the cold, until he pulled out the foil one day. And he said, I'll just have a couple of lines. I went, what's that? He went, no, just the heroin, the gear. I went, what is gear? He went, smack. I went, what? Smack? He went, heroin. And even then, I didn't know what morphine or diamorphine or heroin was. So I just took it for what it was. So I had a few lines, and all of a sudden these snivels just went from there, went away. The aches in my body had gone away, and also the shit I was thinking about and going through went away. And that was me. I found my escapism. I found it, you know, took my pain away to the point to become my best friend. Started to see. And that's where the addiction ever first started for me.
First I went into care 2 days after my 11th birthday, because my mum was an alcoholic. She was had it years before. Well, my mum's side, they did us 4 sisters. And on my dad's side, they stayed with their mum. My sister's got adopted. I've got the choice that day, we're making scared to go with them or go on my own. It's been on my own since.
The first hostel I stayed in was in Soho. It was the one for the more vulnerable of the homeless, for over 16s. So I lied about my age and stayed there for a while. Through the kids I met there, I started hanging out in St Anne's Park with a ragtag bunch of young homeless people. We soon became like a family. We'd hang out all day drinking and smoking weed, listening to music, causing mischief, shoplifting, staying up all night. Eventually I got kicked out of the hostel and fell asleep in a doorway across from the park, hoping to see my friends the next day. That first morning I woke on the streets. I was alone, and in front of me the park gates were already open. And standing just outside was a friendly man, with big kind eyes selling the big issue. His name was Greg, and he was to become my guardian angel.
I live under Bridget Myson, Bridget Hostel pays service charge in the middle of the cockroaches. And I tell people I'd rather live in Myson all day long. But a lot of homeless people with alcohol addictions, they all just want to fight each other. Basically, we shut down a long time ago.
Just horrible places. They're just absolutely horrible. It's full of drugs. Things get robbed out of there at a time. They're just not really, they're not very nice places. I'd rather sleep out here. I feel safe on the streets, yeah.
It's very, very dangerous for being in hostel because you get people coming in there kicking your doors off, you get windows smashed through while you're asleep. That's an hostel, yeah. It's very dangerous inside an hostel, especially if it's mixed. Build properties, build flats, build more hostels, more female hostels. We need more female hostels. A male can get in so easy, but a female cannot get into a place so easy. I've stood in it. It took me 7 weeks now to try and get somewhere. I still cannot get nowhere. They put you in hostels, they put you in shared accommodations where you've got no addictions. They put you in somewhere where someone has totally got a bad addiction. You're going in there clean, you're walking out with a bad addiction.
There used to be a hostel in Glasgow called Hope House, which had a really bad reputation. And I was just out of prison and applied for emergency homelessness. And there was 6 of us in the office that day applying. And all 6 of us got offered a place in Hope House, and I was the only person that took it, because I didn't know any better. And as soon as I got there, man, I seen somebody getting stabbed in the neck with a sherry bottle. And I was thinking, I wish I was back in jail, it's safer. So I went there, and then I went to a place in Ibrox called Aspire. And that time I stopped using everything, but I was basically having a nervous breakdown. My anxiety had got that bad, it was like manifesting itself in physical symptoms. So it was, it was terrifying. The staff there just kept badgering me, and they got me in touch with the trauma team at Hunter Street. But it was only for homeless people, you know. So they really helped me. Yeah, I'd done that well, and I got offered my own tenancy. And then when I got the tenancy, they just withdrew all the help, so.
Yeah, I'm lucky I was trying to sleep 8 hours a week. So far, I'm up 3 days up now. I'll probably 7 out to Monday. Because things happened. I like to be awake, be alert. I'm just not scared, just sick of getting robbed or just idiots around here. You just get people who can try to intimidate you. They see you on your own thing, because you're homeless, they just think you're a target. I've had people I've had fights with, seen people come out pissing on people, and it's just sick. I sleep with people around. I mean, it's night time you got a weirdo, it's daytime you just got like the people stare at you. Like you ain't seen you, homeless people sleeping in. Very lots of people have done. Walk. And a lot of walking. That's just time.
We begged most of the night, hanging out near cash machines, taking advantage of drunk people at the end of their nights out, guys handing us notes trying to impress their girlfriends. But the most dangerous time for women on the streets is that couple of hours between when the people that have been out partying go home and before the others start getting up to go to work. And that little spot there, that couple of hours are the most dangerous. If you fall asleep before then, you generally wake up to someone jerking off over you, city boys on coke pissing on you, and even other street people high shaking you awake trying to molest you. This is why you don't see more women on the streets. They learn to become invisible. That's the only way they can survive.
Any poison? What's your poison?
Now and again, I smoke crack and stuff, but
yeah,
not all the time.
Mate, that crack is evil, mate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only writing this down for my notice for no one else, mate, all right? Any gear?
Sometimes.
Yeah. You on a script?
No.
You're not on a script? Alcohol?
No.
Okay. So is that more than that one? Does that just come together?
Together?
How long have you been taking that for?
2 years.
So you're new to the game? Fucking hell, mate. And why is that just, if you don't mind me asking?
Just the people I was with and...
Victim of the environment that you're around and people. And I used to be safer on the street sometimes I did in the hostel, mate. And I know people that used to come in clean, fresh as a daisy, and walk out the biggest addict going.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what I've done.
Right, do you pay for support? So basically support accommodation, that's what you're in.
Mm.
And every person's got to pay £78. Well, the government pay them people £78 a week. For
service charge and that all paying?
Just service charge, no support charge.
I don't know.
You don't know. Because see, a lot of people that are in support accommodation don't even know that the people that run it are getting £78 a week to support them, and they're getting no follow-up and no support.
Yeah.
You know what, mate? To look at you, look fresh.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying, you don't look like I fucking... You don't look like that.
No.
You know what I mean? But that's what happens to people. They have people like yourself that I was one time, and you deteriorate into something like that without even realising it, mate, you know? Mm-hmm. So if you can get a hold of this now, you're giving yourself half a chance. Mm-hmm. Getting you somewhere safe and accommodated is a priority, because if you're trying to sort your recovery out, there's no point in hiding in the places where everyone's using.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got to also take yourself away from that social circle. No point in getting you somewhere half decent to live and then you coming back to the circle.
Yeah.
You know, because they're just going to be dragged back to that place again, mate.
Mm-hmm.
All right, bud. So we're going to go smash it out with you today. I've got enough to hold on me today.
Yeah.
If the council reject you tomorrow, come back to us tomorrow, mate. And
either way, I'll go there and I'll come now.
Yeah, tell us, and then I'll get on the phone. If they say, no, you're not a priority, or you made yourself intentionally homeless, or anything like that, just say, OK, don't rise above them, didn't bite at them, you know, and come and see me, mate.
Yeah.
All right, you good with that?
Yeah.
No worries, kid. And do you need a bit of...
I'll have a look.
Yeah. No worries, man.
We used to laugh at the addicts running around chasing their next high. But the longer I stayed out on the streets, and the more bad things that happened to me, the more taking something that makes you forget. Something that soothes you and makes you feel like everything's going to be all right. Feels like a good idea. Soon, heroin had become my best friend. It was like being wrapped up in a warm blanket. It took away the shame of what I'd put my family through. And soon I became that drug addict, walking around trying to find my next hit.
People with addictions usually have a sense of vacuum, and they feel sort of a vacuum inside, a sense of restless, irritable and discontent when they're not acting out on the addiction in some way. We know that they produce less dopamine in the brain, so that sort of neural pathways in the brain are usually interfered with from early childhood. They don't deal with stress very well and impulse control. So the 3 areas of the brain that are usually compromised are the dopamine tone, stress management ability, frontal cortex of the brain, and also impulse control. So they're more impulsive by nature as people. But that impulsivity, if utilised in the right way, can also really benefit them. People who have got addiction, the cognitive impairment, the decisions that are made, the complete irrationality, you can't help but seeing it's like a mental health condition. It's the same as the girl who's got the eating disorder, who's standing in front of the mirror, who's saying, you know, I'm overweight when she's like 40 kilos or so, you know, or, you know, it's the same type of thinking. And until it's registered that this is you know, it's a mental health condition, we need to really help them around this. It's an illness, it's a progressive illness, and we can't just put a plaster on it, then it's going to just continue the same way.
The addiction hit me like a bolt of lightning, you know. As I said, I had a beautiful house, I had everything in there, lovely carpets, lovely furniture, music systems, everything an 18-year-old lad would never dream of having, I had it. But I didn't know how to fund this addiction. And it come to him giving me freebies to saying, oh, well, it's £10 a bag. You know, and I'm thinking, oh, well, I get a tenner from, but I'll get a gyro, you know, oh, yeah, that's all right, I can give you. But then that tenner turns into 20, and the 20 turns into 30, 40, and 50s. As your habit increases, like any medication that you absorb into your body, eventually, sooner or later, you're going to need more dosage. And it's exactly the same with heroin. And what I'd done is I started selling everything out of my house, to the point I sold my goldfish tank. Well, it wasn't a goldfish tank, it was actually a tropical fish tank. I even sold my Scotch-Guard carpets. I even sold the kitchen cupboards that were in my kitchen to the neighbour 4 doors down because he wanted to make an island in the middle of his.
If you're an addict, to maintain a drug habit, say, and the resilience and tenacity that's required to every day wake up in the morning when you're sick, you're desperately, you're cold turkey, and to get out on the street and to find the money to get, when you don't have any, you know, you don't have any resources, but you've got to try and find, you've got to manipulate, you've got to be dishonest, you've got to try and find ways and means to get that drug, requires a tenacity and resilience. So there's a lot of transferable skills with people with addictions.
Homeless people should always be involved in their own redemption. They should always be involved in helping themselves out of the grief. Bear in mind, people have lived experience, and that's something they've got to build on. Also, I think it's really important that we bring in legislation that helps homeless people get back on their feet.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello there.
So this is Lord John Bird.
No, I'm not Lord John Bird. I'm John Lord Bird.
John Lord Bird, apologies.
And the reason for that, if I was Lord John Bird, then my dad, who was a plasterer, would have been an earl or a posh geezer.
You live and learn.
I was a homeless guy, not because I didn't have a home, but because I'd been beaten as a child, because we lived in the slums, because my mother was beaten, because I only saw poverty and all that stuff, and I only saw grief and all that. So if you actually added up all the reasons, and the fact I also didn't have a home, that was an outcome, but there were just so many other things. So the problem is not homelessness, it's all the other shit that goes on before.
Yeah. A lot of us believe that per se, despite the fact that I used Class A drugs for 20 years and drank to brink of death, that I don't have a drink problem. I've got a Jed problem. I use drink as a solution. So drink was a solution and drugs were a solution.
Well,
not
self-medication, they call it, don't they?
Yeah. So that wasn't my problem. It was my solution, and that's kind of the way we work it in this building. Has anybody been street homeless? Yeah. Yeah.
I think we can both agree, really, that a lot of street homeless and addicts in recovery suffer with bad mental health. I guess I just wanted to understand your opinion about what sort of message you think Mr. Fell's party is sending to people that are wanting to tackle that issue by getting an education in mental health, because at the minute we're suffering from all-time high fees for universities while also lowering the threshold at which they're expected to pay that back.
Every government fucks us, screws us. Every government, and helps us in some ways. Some more than others, yeah. In my opinion, charging people to go to the university, which actually, the amount of people going to university is higher. But there's a whole group of people like yourself, you're saying, who have been excluded, and we need to find a way of including them.
So I studied 4 years to be a mechanic, but I can't get a job in that. I want my dream job's at BMW, but because of my drink driving offences and being an ex-convict or an ex-addict, they won't take me on. So they're basically putting me at the back of the pile and taking on a fresh guy instead of looking at the experience that I've got. But because this is that's the past me, not the future me, where the well's taking me, it's taking me out of that lifestyle into a new lifestyle, something I'm new to, being a normal person. But that's going to be the new me. So shouldn't my record in the past be like not as looked at as what it would have been using drink and cocaine? Should it be looked at, oh wait a minute, he's done 12 months in a rehab and he's cleaned his life up. So what would your opinion be on trying to...
Well, that's why we in the Big Issue and people around, we work with organisations to do with ex-offenders, and we're trying to, all the time, we're trying to change the way we do that. If you got a job at BMW and you, climbed up the ladder, then people say, God, he's really worked. I mean, I'm in the House of Lords because people say, I love the fact that this guy has been a complete arsehole and he's making his way. And so everybody's in love with the idea, but when it comes to companies, we have to make sure that companies, so that is that would be part of the legislation that we will change.
They look at us like we're scum, but all right, at one point we were scumbags, we were the lowest of the law, but doing this recovery and understanding the disease of addiction, I think people outside like big companies should look at us in a different light and think, do you know what? If he can do recovery, which is one of the hardest things I'll ever do in my life, if he can do that, then he's worth a job, even if it's just starting cleaning the toilets at the company you want to work at, just to show them that you're intrigued or you've got that energy to do it. But like you said, you've gone from being homeless and in addiction to owning this company, so I think you're the right person to guide us into what we need to know.
This lived experience is going to be at a premium in the coming period. And I swear on my life, when I look at the potential that is amongst homeless people, in a period when we don't know what's coming down the line, you will need people who can duck and dive, bob and weave.
Very social.
Jeez!
How long have you been with the well?
29 days, and this is what it's done to me in 29 days. So you can understand, this should be all over the country. Yeah. This programme should be everywhere, one in every fucking town. Yeah. Because it works. If it does this to me after, I'll show you a picture. If I have my phone, I'll show you what I look like before I come in. I look like a skeleton.
Often people say that you can't really do much for homeless people. They're on the streets and they've got problems. And what can you do to actually get them off the streets? But there are just so many good examples in the UK and other places that show what actually happens when you put the effort in and the necessary investment to get people off the streets.
Everyone's got a right to a home. People have choice and control. It takes a harm reduction approach, an active engagement approach. Housing and support are independent from one another. So all these things underpin a model that means that a person effectively can move into a secure home of their own, be supported by a trusted support worker, and take time to develop and build the life they want. That support worker can connect them in with the services and support that can help them develop the parts of the life they want to, that meet their goals and aspirations, or address the issues in their life that they want to as well.
So how long have you been here?
I've been in here since October, but before that I was homeless on the street in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And well, I was homeless here before that. Went to Edinburgh for about a year, then came back through here. Was sleeping rough at the front of the Mitchell Library, and
really?
that was it.
Chose a good library.
I know.
We house people in the big issue, and we've gone to see them 6 months, a year later. They're still living in bin liners all over the world. They're indoor homeless.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're still the demons that have brought them to homelessness have not been addressed. That's why.
I mean, that was my problem when I got my tenancy.
I'm interested in why at the very moment you needed help, you got yourself, you're indoors, they put you indoors, and at that moment, all the support you need to make the housework or the homework was removed. Why do you think there was?
In my expert opinion, I've been through the house and I've been homeless quite a few times. It felt like as you were no longer a statistic on the homeless register, then they just didn't want anything more to do with you. So it was as if they just washed their hands of you. Even though it was inevitable that I would end up back homeless because I didn't have the support for my mental health issues, etc.
So tell us about Housing First. So you met up with them.
Yep.
And has that worked for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, this is the complete opposite is what it was like. I had a meeting with them in 1 week, and then the next week they got me a house. So, and it's been brilliant ever since. If I need them to come to appointments with me, if I'm not feeling great mentally and I'm anxious about going out anywhere or going to certain meetings and meeting people I haven't met before, then they'll support me in that. Or sometimes just come round for a chat, especially during lockdown, because that severe isolation can drive you mad anyway, so.
And with regard to your mental health, are you getting the kind of support you think you need? Or do you think you need more?
No, I need more. But Housing First are trying to get me to the trauma centre at Brand Street, which isn't based on homelessness, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I could get in there, I know it would help me.
Housing First as a model itself kind of originated in America back in the 90s. It's had some success in Europe, particularly in Finland, where it's seen a drastic reduction in homelessness over the past couple of decades. And now in Scotland for the past decade or so, we've been pushing it forward as the solution for people who are in that position. Nearly 1,000 people have been supported and housed via Housing First. 85% of those are sustaining their homes. As well as that, in the biggest programme to date that housed around 600 people, there were 0 evictions, so it works.
When I talked to homeless people, they always had a story that you could see that if something had happened at some stage, they wouldn't be there. So it wasn't like an illness. They were let down by the adult world, and largely terrified children who were almost mortified by growing up in incredible circumstances. And that's, when you live through that yourself and then you see it in other people, you think to yourself, God, there must be another way. And everybody was talking about, let's help that homeless person now. Let's help that homeless person now. Let's help that. And there were all these people, they all wanted to give the poor a bit more money just to make them a bit more comfortable. And I kept saying, well, what about getting them out? What about preventing them? What about looking at our education system, which fails people? Why does it, all it does is create a system that just carries on? Why is it that we train doctors to respond to emergencies, but we don't train doctors to respond to preventing the emergency? Why do we put an ambulance at the bottom of the cliff and not a fence at the top?
All right, mate, God bless you.
I just love how simple the big issue is. They buy it $1.50, sell it for £3. The connections they make then on the street, linking in with their local community, meeting people. I think a lot of them, it's like money, obviously. It's an income, but it's so much more than that for the vendors.
How are you? I'm fine. Yes. I like your mask.
Cynthia, come do with me here.
What's going on with you? How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, but I need to get some papers.
First of all, let's choose a local pitch around here, just to get started, just to see how you go.
Okay.
So what I normally recommend to people is the large Tesco up on Stroud Green Road.
I need large Tesco as well.
Yeah, yeah. You want to go up there?
Yeah.
Alright, we'll get you started there. We try and help whoever comes through the door. Doesn't matter where they're from, we just try and help them as much as we can. We assume that because they've walked through the door, that they are in really dire straits, like they're in a really precarious position, and that's why they've come through our door. They see it's the last chance saloon, you know. Till 13. And your pitch, shall I register that for you now? Yeah? Thanks a lot. Take care, bye. When I started, it used to be kind of a mixture of sort of white, indigenous people and Roma. Now it's pretty much a little mix of everybody.
Oh, you'll be happy to see you. I'll see you Friday. Have a lovely day. Bye, darling.
For 18 years until up to the first lockdown, I was a proud big issue vendor.
Treat each other half price final offer.
Through doing the big issue, I've met some amazing, beautiful people that have took more than their own time out for me. Some had seen me begging and wouldn't engage with me, but when they see me trying to do something for myself, they engaged with me, seeing that I was trying, so they helped me get to where I was today.
It's not about drug addicts or alcoholics or the negatives, all the negatives. It's about giving people the opportunity to get back to normal ways of life, you know? It's not the ends to all means, but it does help people to get involved in something, doing something worthwhile. You need a mentor and you need training. That's what a lot of people don't realize why they are not successful. If you have good training and good mentor, then you are more likely to succeed.
Well, the first day when I would go to work, it was quite emotional as well. Oh, sorry. Because I didn't have to put my big issue vest on again. Sorry, I can't. So I didn't have to put my big issue vest on again, but at the same time, I was going out doing something I know I'm going to love. And I walked in and it was like, I'd been there for years. Everyone's like, oh, how you doing? We've been waiting for you, this, that, and the other. And Brian sat me down. He explained to me, he went, right now, this is what you're going to get a year. You're going to get a salary, you're going to get a pension. I thought I was only ever become a pensioner, and I didn't know what a salary was, so he had to explain it to me properly. And he said, so this is what we'd like from you, is your experience. We would like you to be a support worker. And also said they're going to train me to be a barrister. And I said, I'll be a brilliant barrister. He went, no, you're going to be making coffees, mate. And he showed me around the place and everything. And then he went to the office and he brought out my new uniform. For me to start my new life. I do apologise, but it's still there, still sticks with me. You know, I've helped over 30 people since December, accommodated, got a couple of jobs. Me being an example, I'm now helping others in the struggles I had.
People with addictions because of trauma, because of childhood neglect and such like, not always, right? But they don't believe in themselves, and often it requires somebody else who's like a mentor. This is why most of the clients, in fact, nearly I think all the clients that come and see me come to see me not because of academic qualifications. I've got like lots of qualifications, but they come to see me because I see on my website, I've been there, I know how to get out. You know, that's because, so, and I know personally, when I was on that road, a person said to me, Mark, you can do this. I know you can do this because I've done it, right? If I can do it, you can do it, you know? And so what we try and do is we inspire the people to work towards getting completely clean or working towards changing their life.
The last few months I'd become close with another street girl called Kim. We used to sleep together at night to keep ourselves safe. We'd hang out or beg across the road from one another. But she'd disappear for days on end, and I'd become a target for street pimps and dealers. And the more things I was forced to do, the more of the day was spent trying to get money to keep on a constant high, just so I didn't feel anything. I'd started to feel like I could never escape. I was either going to be alive being permanently numbed, or I felt death was the only way out.
Lorna, can I show you something? Can I have my bag? Sorry, thank you. Thank you. I found this very, very interesting in an old issue of The Big Issue from the May 1997. Mr. Blair had just come into office and was going to get rid of homelessness in 10 minutes. But I thought you might be interested in our missing persons helpline that day. That issue, that week. And there you are. Lorna Tucker.
What's really interesting with this is, Lorna sometimes calls herself Leanne. That was my street name. And
Leanne.
Leanne.
Yeah.
Because there was a girl at school who had really nice hair and came from a well-to-do family that I always dreamed of being like. Because as, you know, similar to your story, I had really struggled at school and my family really were in poverty, so it was that kind of escapism. But this was the beginning. When this came out, this was the start of me nearly getting off the streets. It was, you know, I'd got into really a dark place. I was on the streets with another girl who was a drug addict. I'd become a drug addict, and all the friends I had around me had started dying from overdoses. 2 friends were murdered on Berwick Street, and Greg, a big issue seller, he was the first person I ever met on the streets, used to keep an eye on me. I didn't think I could ever get off the street and go back to a life where everyone was, you know, doing their GCSEs and they were all nice, like you were mentioning, had nice clothes, or they were working in pubs talking about boyfriends and going to festivals and all this kind of stuff. And I'd been, you know, on the game and really broken and seen things set on fire, pissed on, you know. I just felt dirty and that I couldn't go back to that life and fit in. But I didn't want to stay being attacked and on the streets, and, you know, and I tried to unsuccessfully jump off Waterloo Bridge, and right next to the Royal boats, you know. So within 5 seconds they pulled me out. I couldn't walk. But then they saw this poster was in the police station, so they just nicked me and took me back to Watford, and I went to court and decided I wanted to clean myself up. But it was the big issue seller, Greg, that was the one that kept on. It was all the words he kept saying to me, all the never stepping away, calling my mum, you know, keeping this issue, calling my mum, calling the missing helpline, showing them where I'd been begging, trying to get me off because he could just see how vulnerable I was and how young I was. And
well, you look about 13 there. God.
I was a child.
Yeah.
I wonder whether we could just look at that photograph. Do you think we could?
I'm sorry, I'm such a pussy.
You've got nothing to be sorry about. Mm.
Sorry.
It took a long time for me to get my life back together after I got off the streets. The ripples of trauma affected my everyday life. But here I am over 20 years later, making films. I make films now. Who'd have thought?
Oh, thanks so much for coming. That's all right. I'm a massive supporter of everything you guys do at your organisation, so I want to thank you for that firstly. I'm so lucky to be in this position, but I feel like now, through making this film, I've never seen the levels on the streets that were there from when I was a kid. I started this because I could see the numbers creeping up, and I could see homelessness arising in everywhere. It's got to the point where, like, I can't sit there in my home with my family and hide from it any longer. But I realised there had to be a point when I could use this experience and my knowledge and my understanding and my empathy to try and make something so personal, so painfully personal, that I could hopefully start a conversation around it and get people to understand just a little bit more. I really want to thank you for coming in and speaking with me, and also for coming here, because the reason I wanted to film these interviews here is because the first day I ever woke up on the streets to be street homeless, I woke up in a doorway in a theatre across from the park from St Anne's, and I used to rely on this area a lot. So I have quite a long history of this sort of little square around here. So it felt natural to use it as a place as well, to come and meet with people and discuss what's going on. My connection to you guys runs deep.
Yeah.
I was taken to the London Connection, I think on my second week on the streets, by a guy called Greg, who used to sell The Big Issue, much older guy, and he could sense that I was on the fringes of losing my way.
Yeah.
And I'd started to smoke heroin, and I hadn't started using it intravenously, but I hadn't been looking after myself. So he introduced me to the Connection, where I'd use the showers and the wash facilities, and then started seeing, you used to give me travel cards to try and get me to go to visit hostels, but I'd lied to you about my age. So I had told you I was 16. So you guys were like, okay, we can find you something, like, here's a travel card, and I'd actually sell the travel card outside Charing Cross to people. There was a place that I could go that was safe. So because I've been in those doors and I've eaten there and I've used the services, I know how needed they are within that community. Having gone on this journey and finding myself all these years later, seeing myself, the numbers rising, seeing us falling back to almost a state of homelessness that I haven't seen since when I was on the streets, I'm left wondering, like, why today are we in this situation? Like, what is it that we can do as a member of the public to help? And what is it that needs to be happening at governmental level?
The good thing, the hopeful thing in this situation is that we know, and pretty much everyone agrees, on the solutions for getting out of this, for ending the housing emergency. We know that what we haven't done for many, many decades is build enough social housing. Social housing is truly affordable housing because the rents are linked to local incomes, and that's just such a basic safety net to make sure that everybody can have a decent home in society. It's a foundation for health, it's a foundation for secure childhoods, for succeeding in education. It's the bedrock for everything. We actually, at the moment, lose to right to buy or to demolition every year more social homes than we're actually building.
If I want to sort of offer a rainbow of hope to people around homelessness, what are those things? Well, you know, people might have heard of Housing First, which is a way of people getting lots and lots of support in accommodation without all the conditions and hurdles and barriers that go with that. So quite often people who've been sleeping rough will go into a night shelter and then a hostel and then a training flat and then another training flat and then they might go into a permanent tenancy. That's 5 moves. Now, I don't know about you, but there is that whole thing about the 3 most stressful things that people go through in their lives: a divorce, the death of a loved one, and moving house. So if you're already feeling pretty awful and unstable and you haven't had any proper sleep, you've been on the streets for a long time, to move 5 times in a couple of years is not a good response.
But also without having any emotional therapeutic support to move on as well. The chances of them staying sober or clean from drugs or not acting out and in other ways that means they could lose that place as well.
What you rightly point out is, you know, it's policy solutions that are needed. And I think the main thing to say is that homelessness is a solvable problem. You know, it is something we can do. The government can do something about it. Policy choices matter. You know, we've seen in other countries homelessness levels come down because of policy choices. You know, in Finland, for example, they've seen rough sleeping drop significantly over the last 10 years and their homeless levels going down. That's because they've invested in housing first. And I think if we're thinking about what we would say to government in terms of what they need to do, there's some short-term things that, you know, we are calling for at the moment. So one of them is to increase housing benefits so it actually covers the cost of rent, and that will stop people experiencing homelessness in the first place, as well as helping people to move out of homelessness who are looking to access affordable homes.
We also need to make sure that there's a safety net there to catch people right now until we have the right housing, to make sure people can be supported in their homes.
In terms of government kind of action, we also need government to pledge to end it and then to have the policies in place and then to implement it. So not just looking at rough sleeping, which is the tip of the iceberg, but to look at all forms of homelessness.
We need to start seeing it not as just a cost, but as an investment. It's an investment in people and in their futures, an investment in children and their futures. So yeah, we spend £1.6 billion a year on temporary accommodation, which is mainly for families with children. That's gone up 61% in the last 5 years, which is just unsustainable. We'd be much better off spending money to build homes for people, to invest in those families and in those futures. It's a false economy to just keep making cuts because the costs just come further down the line, whether they're to social services, whether they're to the NHS, whether they're in temporary accommodation.
It's just mind-boggling why this investment isn't like prioritised above everything else.
What we're talking about here is spending more money on prevention and stopping people from, you know, becoming homeless in the first place and supporting people so that we don't end up in a situation where we're spending billions of pounds on poor quality, insecure accommodation, and also then you know, the way that people feel and kind of the impact it has on individuals, you know, in terms of experiencing homelessness, and then how long that takes for somebody, you know, who, you know, may never get over that experience, and, you know, it may always carry that with them.
Well, everything you're saying is like, wrap your arms around people, support them to move on with their lives. So then you're not just putting them in a house and setting people up to fail, or you're not just ignoring it or blaming. And the money you would save from the investment in that, you would make back 10 times fold that you could put back into the preventative, enabling people to really turn their lives around instead of going, right, well, they're off the street, that's one figure off. It's like, no, it's keeping them off, and not just, it's not even keeping them off, it's helping them find something they love in order to find a passion in life, so they've got something to move forwards on.
Yeah, there are things that we can do to stop people from being homeless. So I think that's the first thing to say. This is not a hopeless cause. It is possible to stop people from being homeless. The way that we do that is to significantly increase affordable accommodation, provide people with support, and, you know, maybe we need to pay more taxes to cover that, not by much, because in the bigger scheme of things, the number of people who are homeless in this country, although it's rising and it's, you know, scary numbers, as a proportion of the whole population, it's tiny. We've got this.
Homelessness is a solvable problem. We can do it, and as a society, we want to end homelessness, and it's something we can do in the next 10 years. It is possible.
We just need to believe we can do it, I think. We can. It's not rocket science, it's a cliche, but it is not rocket science. We know what to do. We just need to get on and do it.
Thank you so much, God. You give me hope. No, can I just say... Sorry, I'm a hugger.
No, and thank you for being really open.
I did 18 to 20 years in czar's jobs in Whitehall, and my first one was the rough sleeping czar. And I think that what's really interesting about that model of change, of kind of solutions, is that at that time, the government, the Blair government, had 3 or 4 things that it really, when it came into power, it was prepared to look at some things that were difficult. So it looked at reducing the risk of reoffending, not popular. It looked after kids and what happened to them before 16 and what we did to them when they turned 16, which is, here's a bin bag, off you go. And it looked at rough sleeping. And I think it was an iconic time, which is what I think they could be doing now, in that it basically said, these are difficult issues, but we're going to work out a way to solve them. So we had a government that was utterly determined to attach itself to a goal, which was to reduce the numbers of people sleeping rough on the streets by 2/3 by 2002. And that had to reduce them permanently. So this was no get everyone off the street into a shelter. This was how do you change the system so that you created less homelessness, and also how did you deal with the people that have been out there for years with very, very significant levels of needs. So people with long-term drug, alcohol and mental health problems, as opposed to how do I shelter my way out of it.
So we're off to one of my old haunts, Farringdon Station, for about, I would say, 5 to 6 years. I would have been as my stomping ground if I wasn't begging, doing the big issue. If I wasn't doing that, I was selling the drugs. Where you are sat right now, the shop front has changed. There used to be a cost cutters here, and there used to be a cash point just where you were. So what I would be doing, I would be sat here, doing my normal thing, spare change, sir, madam, spare change, please. And that one day, like I've said, this gentleman come round that corner, and he approached me, and he just, that's where he turned around and said, would you like a drink? And he asked me about tobacco and food and that, and he went into Costa's. He came out, and he sat right beside me, and from that day, I made a friend. He came out with a ginsters, passed the 4 cans of Skull Soup bar, 25 grams of Golden Virginia and a pack of Green Rizzler and a lighter, and he just come and sat down beside me. This total stranger. And, like, from that moment, something changed, you know what I mean? That this guy, that's a city-working guy, lives in the countryside, must have been passing me multiple times before he came up to me, and we just started chatting. And for some reason, you can't be honest with everyone on the streets, you know? But him, I could give full transparency. And I told him, yeah, I had a problem, and I've got a drug addict, I'm on methadone, I'm an alcoholic. And he turned around and said, well, so was I. I was an alcoholic.
We have so much evidence about the causes of homelessness, so much. We know who's typically affected. It's by and large people who come from underprivileged backgrounds. We know that most people don't need an emergency housing stay, and yet the system and all the money is still going towards very expensive emergency housing.
We need to also be able to stop the flow of people onto the streets. We need to turn the tap off, because even the best interventions available are never much more than mopping the water off the floor. Homelessness is a very complex, systemic issue. It's not for nothing that it keeps going up and down over cycles of 7 to 10 years. It's incredibly difficult, and it's not for lack of trying, and it's not for lack of fantastic people working in the field. If you help end homelessness for one individual, you're not just helping that individual and their families, you're helping society more broadly. If we ended street homelessness, the benefits and the costs to society would be in the region of 400 million and 900 million. And if we ended all types of homelessness, it would be in the region of 4 to 9 billion. So significant benefits in terms of costs, as well as benefits to society more broadly.
For the last 30 years, I've been saying the same thing, that unless you invest in better education, unless you invest in better housing, unless you invest in better social support and mental health support and health, then you're always going to have people who slip into homelessness and get caught there. And then they never ever get the chance of participating in society. And the enormous amount of money that is used just keeping people poor, just keeping people out of homelessness, only just out of it, never clear of it.
I want everyone to believe that we can end homelessness in 10 years. And in order to do that, we need to question our assumptions, be aware that we can do a lot more in terms of taking advantage from technological developments to improve the data we have. We then also need to move from trying to fix people to just listening to what they want and their hopes and facilitating them achieving those goals. We also need to support people doing hard work day in, day out on the front line to do their jobs even better. And finally, so we learn those lessons, we need to build a movement for evidence-led change. We need to change attitudes and behavior, and we need everyone to join this movement. Those are the things that I suppose keep me going and that I'm hopeful for.
I think ultimately, if I had, when I was 15 or 16 or still on the streets or in recovery trying to get clean or trying to move on, and I had heard about another woman who had been there and had done it and was now making films or had a career or had all these things, it might have given me hope. Because I know in those dark days, and not just on the streets, but when I would relapse or when I was having dark times afterwards, I always felt like there was no way out and there was no life for me beyond that. And I think that's the main thing that I've tried to take out of this, and this is why I decided to be part of the film as well as trying to make the film, is knowing that if I could make a film, that if I saw it when I was a teenager, and it would give me hope that there was life beyond it, and that you can, it's never too late. And those moments when you want to check out, or you feel like life can't ever continue, that it can if you keep walking, you know, and if you keep moving forwards. And it took me a long time to get here. So many mistakes. Like so many mistakes, but I'm here and I'm alive, and I can honestly say it gets better when people start listening, you know, and when you have someone that listens, and I think that's again why I decided to go on this journey, is because I feel like I've been so lucky to be given the opportunities I have to turn my life around and be here now, that now it's my time to help the next ones up and use that message to try and hopefully inspire someone else that It's possible, right?
People fear what they don't know. Take time to learn. Take time to talk to that person on the street. Have some compassion. Forget your fear of what a homeless person or a drug addict is. Take some time out and get to know that person. You'll find there's an angel in everyone. I lived a life of 20 years in addiction, 25 years on the streets, and I was brought into this world innocent and free. But now I'm in a position where I'm supporting people instead of being supported. I used to put my head down when people used to walk by me because they used to look at me as shame. But really, it should be them that are ashamed for looking at me that way in the first place. Sitting on that ground, sleeping in that doorway, it's someone's son, someone's daughter, someone's mum. And I'm hoping that next time you walk down the street and you see someone in that doorway, or you see someone sitting down, just think of what I was and where I am now. And just take 30 seconds out to say hi, even if it's just hi and goodbye. At least you've acknowledged them, because that costs nothing.
I'll speak to you in a bit. Right.
Come here, not getting a kiss off me if you get home. No worries, kid. You stay strong, all right? Stay strong, good luck.
Get back safely.
Same to you.
Goodbye. It's not the end. It's not a sad parting, my friends. You have helped to make some troubles mend. Goodbye. That's it.
Someone's daughter, someone's son.